Welcome to the Travel Plus Loyalty podcast. We are again ready with our Monday morning update. This morning, we are having our Travel Plus Loyalty A-team in the studio. Our A-team is our experienced panel within the travel and loyalty industry. Today's theme for the panel is about airline loyalty and how the current situation is and what it could look like in the future. Let's go over to the studio that in today's A-team panel is on the Clarion Hotel Copenhagen Airport, where we are in one of their meeting rooms in their conferencing center. A perfect place for full days of meeting, events, or like us, for recording a 3 episode of our Travel Plus Loyalty podcast series. Welcome to our panel that today will be about loyalty. Loyalty seen from the airline's point of view and from the customer's point of view. We have today a panel of 5 persons that has huge experience from the airlines or is frequent flyers. I'm Henrik Olsen and I'm the frequent flyer, or one of the frequent flyers, and together with Alan Humphrey, previous Singapore Airlines, we say today and welcome to the Travel Plus Loyalty airline panel. Alan, over to you to introduce the theme of the day.
Yeah, since we started our first podcast, we had the ambition to form a small team, which we will call the A-team, of course, of travel professionals who could take various subjects, discuss, and maybe elaborate a little more for the benefit of people who are traveling. So today's theme is quite simple. How loyal are the loyalty schemes towards the traveler, and how loyal is the traveler towards the schemes? So before we start, I would like each of you to make a small presentation of yourself so that we know who is sitting here today. So Henrik, please.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, my name is Henrik Lund. 30 years of experience from the airline business, SAS, Emirates, Aegean, and most recently Air Canada, within the disciplines of revenue management, marketing, and mostly sales.
And my name is Patrick Menzies. I've been in the airline business for, 34 years, something like that. The last 24 years with South African Airways in the Nordics. And the last period of about 15 years, I was the sales and marketing manager for SAA in the Nordic area. So that was everything from sales, marketing, strategies, etc. So I've had my finger in the pot in various areas as well.
My name is Henrik Slotland. I would fall into the group as a frequent traveler. I have a travel pattern where I travel a lot around in Europe, but also globally to Middle East, Singapore, Australia, and Americas.
So a true global traveler.
I would say that. Yes.
That's perfect. And to kickstart the discussion that is around the loyalty part, then we have divided the next minutes up into loyalty seen from the airline's point of view and also loyalty seen from the two of us, like the customer's point of view. So should we start with you, Alan? Actually, your experience from Singapore Airlines. How does the airline look at loyalty?
Well, loyalty is one of the most important things that you can work with within the airline industry. People who are traveling quite frequently and are investing a lot of money into that airline needs to be treated very, very delicately, and at the same time also show that we do appreciate that kind of business. Singapore Airlines had several loyalty programs of their own, and of course also a member of the Eurobonus loyalty scheme as well. But it is all about making the experience dealing with an airline as personal as you can do, and ensure that you are in sync with whatever the client as such is looking for whenever they're traveling with you. It goes from booking, it goes via the check-in, recognitions at the check-in, recognitions all the way through. The communication, if they have a problem, they can call. If there is anything they want to know, they have a local person wherever Singapore Airlines has an office. Of course, they can also go to the head office. So the communication links are all open to that. But it's important that you are treating those frequent flyers with a degree of respect that they deserve, because they are actually one of the backbones of any airline. We can say whatever we want to do, but the business traffic is very, very important to any airline. That's also why we need to ensure that any aspect of a travel works very, very smoothly. And how do you do that? Firstly, of course, there is the product, then there is the service on board, but also what is important for most travelers. In our case, we out of Singapore, where Changi is a very modern airport, there was no really need to have a fast track, because things are moving pretty fast anyway. And if you're traveling in first class, you're moving straight through whatever you need to do with the immigrations and customs and etc. But then coming to the lounge, make sure that your recognition is there. Make sure that we know who you are, what you want, what your preferences are as to food, drinks, etc. But also make sure that you are actually going on your flight. So everybody is registered so that we know whenever the flight is called upon. We will, of course, mention that if you want to go to this flight, you probably have 10 minutes walk. If you need any assistance, then we will take you there. So all these small aspects is very important. When you come on board, we know what are your preferences as to food, what have you pre-ordered, what kind of meals are you going to have. All of that in order to show that we are really caring and appreciating. And then, of course, the bonus programs. Can you upgrade? When can you upgrade? How many miles do you need? Or revenue, whichever system that you're working with. And make sure that if there are seats available, that you actually can get those seats. The worst thing, according to our survey, was that if you couldn't do the upgrade as you wanted it to do for no particular reason, then you're really in a very bad position. But whenever you're traveling and there are a seat and you are capable of miles to upgrade, you should be upgraded. And even at the gate, that was very important in our findings. And then also in advance, if there are seats, at least you could book in advance. That's very important, because you have actually earned your miles. It is actually money in the bank. So why should we prevent you from basically spending that kind of money? So those were the things. Communication, direct communication, either by newsletter or by call or visits and so forth. That was how we did it, and Singapore Airlines is still doing it around the world.
And Henrik, in Air Canada is a little bit different story, because they have sold their program earlier and bought it again. How does your experience with that goes along with the loyalty?
Well, it just shows. Well, first of all, the reason that Air Canada sold off Aeroplan back in the days was simply because of the financial situation Air Canada was in at that point of time. So that was basically more or less in desperation. They needed the cash that the Aeroplan program actually represented. But on the other hand, it then also shows the value of having a loyalty program, that Air Canada was willing to invest a lot of money in buying back the Aeroplan program. Loyalty programs, well, basically loyalty isn't rocket science. It's obvious that having loyal customers generating a very large proportion of the total revenue for the airline, for the company, is essential. And also given the fact that different rules of thumb, but between 7 to 8, 9 times factor in having repeat business rather than going out and purchasing new business. It's obvious that having a loyalty program, a strong loyalty program, an intelligent loyalty program is essential. Not only for an airline, it could be retail, it could be any kind of business, but that is essential in today's fierce competition between, in our case, airlines, but in any kind of business. But the key factor here is, and Alan also touched upon it, is having a program that gives value to the customer. Obviously also giving value to us as an airline, but if you can't provide value for the customer, your loyalty program is basically worth nothing. Obviously there's also a cost attached to having a loyalty program, but taking to the factor that getting a new customer will cost you 7-8 times the price of having repeat business, it's a no-brainer that you have a valuable loyalty program, but also being able to, from an airline perspective, using your loyalty program, because having a loyalty program, having a direct contact to your customers gives you so much information if you can use it, especially with new technology where you can track and trace everything a customer does, giving you the opportunity to really customize and tailor-make offers to your customers. That's where you as an airline can make a difference, rather than just having, as we will touch upon later, basically point chasers.
And that makes it actually quite interesting on buying it back, seen from an airline point of view, having a large amount of business travelers and so forth. So Patrick, over to you a little bit, because you're coming with let's say, quite many years, as you also said in the introduction, from South African, and there is not that many business travelers. So how does South African work, or how did they work with loyalty?
I think they basically, we have to split up the world in a couple of portions and pizza slices. Because as we all know, the Earth is flat, so we can split it in pizza slices.
Yeah.
But when you're an offline airline, that means that you do not fly to a given area. We did not have flights into the Nordics. We were offline, which meant that our approach to the loyalty programs here in Scandinavia was radically different to what they would do in the UK, where we flew out of London, or in Germany, where we flew out of Frankfurt and Munich, or indeed out of any other point where we flew. South African Airways was very conscious of the fact that they actually had a pretty good loyalty program. And it was built up like many other loyalty programs. It was called Voyager. And one of the things that they found out very, very quickly was that they made quite excellent deals with some of the biggest supermarkets, some of the biggest retail chains in South Africa, the mobile companies. And people were earning points like you would not believe. It's not status points, but it was burn-off points. But they were earning a lot of points. And eventually, SAA found out that actually cost them a lot of money. So when they started looking at rolling it back, obviously the frequent travelers were up in arms about it. So they then decided not to roll it back. So for many years, obviously, I'm not a member of a lot of frequent flyer programs, so I can't compare. But for many years, the South African Airways Voyager program was probably one of the programs that had most external partners outside the travel business, and it was very valued. From a Nordic point of view, well, SAS Eurobonus program, loyalty program, is so strong. And because we were part of the Star Alliance, we actually obviously then had access to Eurobonus members, and they could buy upgrades and all these other kinds of things, especially when they were either had a lot of miles or were gold or platinum members, or diamond members. So we didn't actually focus that much on the SAA loyalty program here. There were some members. I think there were about Yeah, I think we probably had about 25, 30 gold members in Scandinavia, and maybe 2 or 3 platinum, lifetime platinum members in Scandinavia. So we were much more focused on pushing the advantages of having a Eurobonus membership, or for that matter, any other Star Alliance. But for obvious reason, Eurobonus was very strong here. But using it and flying on SAA, you would gain the same benefits. And it's that was the way how we approached it here in Scandinavia or in the Nordics.
So 3 different profiles in loyalty seen from the airlines, and then let's go to the travel side, the customer side in this. Global frequent flyer all over the world. How is loyalty? What does loyalty mean for you?
Loyalty for me is recognition when I travel, but it's also status. Status when you travel long haul. I usually travel premium classes when I fly long haul, and economy classes when I travel within Europe. So from my perspective, my benefits of traveling premium long haul give me some benefits when I travel weekly. So I'm able to utilize this to get the status that will give me the perks that's on the market. I have SAS Eurobonus Diamond, I have Emirates Gold, and it's clear these 2 programs is very different. From my perspective, the SAS Eurobonus is more talking to the non-premium customers, because what they offer on their gold, either gold or diamond members, is basically what you get if you fly premium. Whereof Emirates offer upgrades to first class. They have a different approach in the way they are marketing their benefits, and I think that is a key. It's from my perspective, it's key that there is a value to a program. So when I'm traveling, I really don't get any benefits from a Eurobonus program. But if I fly SAS, when I fly to US, I usually fly a Canada, and it's actually quite funny, because why do I pick a Canada?
Yeah, that's interesting. Can you put some words on that one?
Basically, the US immigration is able to be done in Canada. Instead of flying through Newark or Washington, where you're able to end up in a 3-hour queue, you clear your immigration and you fly domestic. So from a Canada perspective, flying from Europe, the biggest perk is actually not what Canada offers, but what the country or the authorities offers to the travelers.
But just a point here, Henrik, is that something that you have been able to marketing from a Canada point of view?
Extremely. Because the point-to-point traffic between Scandinavia and Canada isn't that big, so we very quickly identified the US as a huge market, where you would say that Newark is very well established as a hub. SAS has done that for the last 20-25 years. Washington in the same way. But what we could hear from our customers was in more and more increasingly long queues in the lines, no prioritization between business class and economy class. It's just one big mess, where we saw a huge opportunity in marketing the let's say the fast track, immigration's fast track through Canada. So that was we really used that as a selling point towards both economy travelers who also appreciate it, but especially for business class travelers, that you could transfer. So take Newark as an example. Typically take you, depending on the point of time, 3 hours. You could do it. We've timed it through Toronto in 20 minutes.
And it's quite interesting because I really do like that example. It's a huge and good example of let's say the experience of a frequent flyer that saying, okay, I don't want to stand in line, so we have other ways, and Canada provided that way. So the waiting time is changed. Also, not out of New York where there is direct connection from Scandinavia. It's also the possibilities to fly to other U.S. destinations where you would need a stop anyway in U.S. from SAS or other airlines. So you open also that part of it.
Yeah, so obviously our prime focus was obviously for transiting passengers, where you have the alternative of going through Toronto or Newark or Washington to US, and with more than 65 destinations within the US, there was ample alternatives to basically any point of destination within the US.
And Cuba as well, actually.
And Cuba.
That was one of the fun destinations. Back to you, Henrik, on that part. You mentioned a little bit about the status was important. What is it that you use the status for? Because you're flying so much, so it's not the points is not the let's say the what you need basically. So the status, where do you use the status and for what?
Basically, my status is giving me, if you look at the Eurobonus program, my prime benefit as what you would call a premium flyer on the Eurobonus program is that I have the fly premium benefits, which means that I would be able, if I go on a leisure travel with my family, to book tickets in premium classes, but only pay for the points equivalent to an economy ticket, which means that if for instance you have 6 flights to US, you would gain around 30,000 points on one leg or on one trip. Within 6 trips, you would have 4 business class tickets for your family for a leisure trip to US, and this is really from my family's perspective the key driver that we can able to utilize the points for our trips. I usually don't use my Eurobonus points for upgrades or anything like this because it's there's no value in Europe upgrading to premium economy. It's basically the same seat. You don't need the food, and if you fly premium economy or business on the long haul, you get. This is basically what they have to offer. So this is from my perspective on the Eurobonus point. On Emirates, it's a little bit different because on Emirates you have the possibility to upgrade to first class. So on Emirates, I would rather I use my points for upgrades rather than spend it on the family trips. So that is the difference.
And that's actually quite interesting because it leads over to 2 questions. The airlines, so Star Alliance, Sky Team, OneWorld, what does that mean for loyalty as well within the alliances, seen from also the airline point of view? Patrick, you mentioned a little bit about that you used your bonus also that counts for both for the rest of you as well on that part. So what does that mean, alliances loyalty-wise, Patrick?
It means a hell of a lot in some aspects. Some aspects not so much. We know, and we all know that from work experience, travel experience, that there are some perks that are unique to the airline and being a member of that particular loyalty program. But the overall perks, the extra luggage, the upgrades, the burn-off points, etc., that has been used very effectively as a marketing tool. And essentially, that is what loyalty programs are today. They're a marketing tool. And we would rather see our customers say, all right, okay, the SAA flight is full, but I can fly Lufthansa. All right, okay, it stays in the family. And we know that you, as a valued customer, will get the same, more or less the same perks being member of our loyalty program, and especially when you're a gold or diamond platinum member. Silver members, not so much. Blue members, they don't get any benefits across the, or very, very few benefits across the alliances. But it is a very important tool, and it is a way to, has been a way to differentiate ourselves from the other alliances, because basically the alliance is a commercial, it's a commercial child, so to speak. If I'm a loyal SAS customer and I try to board an SAS flight and it says Lufthansa, my thought would be, well, that's not what I bought. Right, that's gone. Everybody knows now that alliances work differently, but that was essentially what the alliances were for, to broaden our reach. And by doing that, we also had to work with a loyalty program. So it is a very important tool.
I would say what Patrick just mentioned was some of the upsides from an SA perspective, and would also be from an Air Canada perspective. One of the downsides of being a non-national carrier within the alliance was that from a sales perspective, when I was in my sales planning, campaign planning, we lacked that one essential tool that we couldn't communicate with a huge mass of customers. I couldn't sit down with hundreds of thousands. We had basically 1,500 members. So it's not the big mass to work with compared to 4 million. I don't know the number specifically for Scandinavia, but probably millions of a mass base of customers where you can work with campaign planning, where you could do your travel analysis, look at travel patterns, and try and work with customizing different value propositions to these customers. I would say that's the major downside of not being the national carrier and not having your program in your market, whereas obviously my colleagues in Canada have that opportunity within Canada, especially now, whereas that goes for SAS today. And I say that's a huge downside because there are so many opportunities to work with, especially with the new technology where you can customize special offerings for the customers, where you can actually add value to the program.
So bringing a little bit up on this on the home market. So you have, for example, SAS for the Nordic market. You have the Miles & More, or the Lufthansa, Austrian Airlines, Swiss for the German, Austrian, and Swiss market. So of course the airlines within the same alliances has a strong foot, and the millions of members they have. We also saw Norwegian that have been very, very aggressive in their days in building up a huge member to their cash points and so forth for marketing purposes. Of course. So what you see is that from an airline that is not in the home market, the alliance is not necessarily the best parts on that part. But there are of course upsides, but there are a lot of downsides in the co-working between the alliances.
Yeah, you tend to have a more passive role where you piggyback on the national carrier, in our case SAS and the Eurobonus program, but not giving you or us as a non-national carrier the opportunity to work with the program and the loyal customers.
Okay, Patrick, you also have one.
Yeah, I've always said it as a bit of a joke that the main reason to be part of an alliance is that you know who's shooting at you. Because basically we also have to realize that each airline in an alliance, and it doesn't matter which alliance we're talking about here, will always take care of themselves first. That's just a given fact. No discussion about that. So one of the advantages of alliances is on a generic point of view globally, but it's not. It's not something that effectively works when you're an offline or a non-national carrier. I totally agree with you. So the benefits of the loyalty programs for us that were non-national carriers were limited, especially our own. And we obviously, for competitive reasons, couldn't get access to all the Eurobonus members, and they didn't want to give us access either, SAS. So it has limited view. But if we look at it from a organizational point of view, then the loyalty programs and within the alliances are very important.
Alan, is it different from Singapore Airlines, because you have been co-working with the SAS for so many years? So is this a different history in Singapore Airlines, or is it the same pattern?
No, it became quite different as such, because we have tried both. Being part of course, the Star Alliance. First, we were just independent, and nobody at that time in Singapore Airlines wanted to be part of any of these global organizations that emerged at the time. Then we joined Star Alliance, and again, just to echo what both Patrick and Henry said, communication is a vital part. When we joined up and had the JV with or joint venture with the SAS, it became a different ball game. You give up in order to have a JV. You have to do a lot of due diligence in order to be approved by EU and everybody. And you're not having a joint venture on all your routes, but you're having on certain routes. But that means that you have a uniformity as to how you're doing things. In our case at the time, our corporate agreements was that the SAS was handling the corporate agreement within their program and that communication. Whereof the leisure program, we were still doing our own, so that was not an issue on that one. But JVs are, of course, there can only be one boss, and that will be that the home carrier in, let's say, in the Nordics was SAS, and vice versa, we were the leading carrier in Asia. At that time, SAS still had offices around in Asia, but they decided to close them. So all of a sudden, of course, it became that Singapore Airlines was more or less the prolonged arm in Asia, and here SAS was the leading on all our contracts within the travelers and so forth. But it also meant for us that we all of a sudden could communicate with our messages. Not that we freely could communicate because it was coordinated, but it gave a lot of access to a lot of markets that we actually were able to get into. But again, also, we're coming back to, and I would like to ask Henrik on it, how important is the alliance for the traveler? Apart from having the variety, but I mean, I can hear from what you have just been telling us, how you are traveling. You're very specific on airlines because you are flying to certain areas. So you're talking about these and these airlines, and I think in somehow, at least the value of the alliances from a traveler's point of view has diminished to what it used to be, and I'm scared to see what the COVID will do to all of these alliances. But in principle, most people are having certain routes that they're flying to, and they will know who is flying and how they want to fly, and they might not be in the same alliance, but you're doing it for your convenience and you're doing it for the products. I mean, it is not obvious that if you want to go to New York that you actually go via, let's say, Canada. But you do it because there are very valid reasons as to why you should do it. And I think this has changed.
But there you could... It's correct. For me, going back to what I said before, what do I use the program for? Mm-hmm. It's basically to earn miles, to entertain my family when we go out on vacation, which basically makes me selecting the Eurobonus program as the key program. And because SAS is the prime operator in Scandinavia, it would not give us the flexibility if we chose the BA program or the KLM program, because it would limit the number of destinations that we could choose from. At the same time, there is benefits of flying with Air Canada, SAS, and Lufthansa, because with these airlines, you have a very broad coverage. And my travel pattern is not, as you mentioned, Alan, which I see that the airlines usually like having passengers that comes to the same travel to the same destination. If I look at my itinerary in 2019, it was Auckland, Hong Kong, Singapore, Sydney. On the Pacific side, in Middle East, it's primarily Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and then go to US, it's Dallas, Seattle, Wichita, Los Angeles, San Diego. So with a travel pattern where it's not a one-to-one, but it's very broad, the alliance have a huge value because you get your status miles returned back. And I'm very selective as well, because when you fly the premium products on the long-haul flights, I would never choose a Lufthansa product.
Or United product.
Only if a SAS flight from Washington was cancelled, I flew on a United to Zurich instead. But that was forced. But you would never choose it, because the Lufthansa business class product is a premium economy product, in my perspective. There's no real, the seat is not as comfortable as you see on the other products. You feel more like a premium. The cabin is set up like this, so there's no exclusivity in the product. It's more like a standard product.
But I also think that airlines like Lufthansa on that part, they need to differentiate their first class product to the business class to create that difference in the feeling. And that's also what's interesting in premium economy being pushed in. What is the difference in premium economy, business class, and first class? So that's interesting. But
because you're totally right, because flying Singapore Airlines.
Yes.
Flying Singapore Airlines to Singapore, if you fly business class or you fly first class, the difference is, from a customer perspective, marginal.
Especially on the hard product, right?
On a hard product, and you're usually sleeping, so that, as a customer, there's not that big difference. You would like to try it, but it's not something, from my perspective, something I would buy. Because the hard product on business class is actually really, really good. And this is why, if you look at SAS, they have a huge challenge. Because the business class product in the SAS, that is fabulous. Same as the Canada. It's a fabulous product. And what are they able to offer to the premium passengers? It's very difficult for them to pick something else. They could offer one free upgrade per year or something like that. So you get some recognition, but today it's very. From my perspective, the Euro bonus program actually more talks to the people traveling economy. That see business as a good.
But let's dig more into that one in general, because it counts on other airlines and the travel types you are. So what you're saying is that when you do travel premium, you buy your business class seats and so forth. The membership or the loyalty, what that gives access to during your travel is minimal. That is only the station
access
points.
to the points that I can use, but from my traveling pattern when I travel, that there's no big difference. For sure, when I travel in Europe, I have the access to the fast tracks, and I have access to the lounges, even though I travel in economy. But usually, I never use the lounges. And when I look at the two lounges in Copenhagen, I think I've been traveling through Copenhagen maybe 1,000 times, and I've never realized the difference between the Eurobonus lounge and the Gold Class lounge. I don't see the real, as a customer, the real difference. So I don't know. Okay, today should I go upstairs or should I go downstairs? I don't know. and it's basically random selection because there's no real differentiation.
There is a little bit about the offerings, but they're very limited. But a little bit back, because I would describe myself more as a point chaser, right? Of course, status is important, but the points is what I'm going for, because I use the alliances, back a little bit to the alliance. I use definitely the alliances to earn my points with buying the seat, many flights, as many and upgrading, and I would gladly take an extra segment to go to Stockholm and then back again, and then go to Toronto and so forth to do that, to get extra segments and extra points to get my status, of course. But then when that is secured, then it's points, and then I will use my points for premium travel. There could be a business class with Air Canada to Toronto and further, or it could be with Singapore Airlines to get their business class product. So that's my use of definitely the points and what status gives the ability. And what I see is over the last 5-6 years at least, but also maybe back, is that is being devaluated. It's more difficult to get access to that part. You have the best first class seats, the suites on Singapore Airlines. You cannot book them unless you are within the KrisFlyer program, and Lufthansa is not giving you the ability to book first class until 2 weeks before departure and so forth. So it's getting more difficult to be utilizing that point on the alliances part. And you also see just recently JetBlue and American Airlines, they have joint ventures. So now you can actually earn points by flying JetBlue to American. So you also see something, the breakout out of the alliances. So Henrik, a little bit of question to you. You're flying Emirates. They are in their own alliance, basically, and then you have your own. What you said about that is that you use your bonus points for your family travel. So that is basically that's the reason why your bonus for you. So why do you stay loyal?
That's part of it. The other part is that we are in Scandinavia. I'm living in Scandinavia, which means that the best connections for me is to fly out of Scandinavia. I would not, if I signed up for the KLM program, I would have to fly through Amsterdam all the time. But that would give me an extra leg, which I'm not interested in. So when I look at from a traveler perspective, SAS together with their Star Alliance partners have a really good network, and this is why I choose them. But you mentioned about traveling directly to New York. I actually flew to Toronto to New York because sometimes we see that the price differences on the tickets is so significant that no man on earth is able to justify why fly directly to New York if you can pass through Toronto, get a fast immigration, and you'll maybe arrive 2 hours later. And that's I think that is one of the key challenges that you see, that you really see how the prices differs on the tickets. As well, I had a period a few years back where I flew a lot to San Francisco. For some strange reason, I could buy a ticket if I flew premium economy on SAS to San Francisco and then business back. The price would be around 60% of a two-way business class ticket. So the company saved around 15,000 kroner if I took the day trip to San Francisco in premium economy, where the value of business is actually limited. The real perk for me is that I'm able to sleep when I travel. So if I'm able to, the premium economy product is perfectly fine on a day trip, and I take it to save money, because there's no reason to spend like 40K on a two-way business class if you can do one way on premium and then the other way on business back, and then you're fresh when you arrive back home.
But the question is about the loyalty we see that you mentioned earlier as well, and I have the same lifetime goal, the flight premium. We talked before we started. We talked about the rollover points that KLM have and so forth. Is these things something that change loyalty or impact loyalty?
I would say the flight premium product really, this creates for me as what I would call a premium frequent flyer. The benefit, if I didn't have the flight premium on the Euro bonus, it's marginally what I see as a perk, because that is really where you get the recognition that you're able to book in the business and only pay economy, because it's so expensive. The way they have structured the point is that they made this where you buy full fare tickets, but the prices for these tickets is so expensive that it's more or less impossible to buy 4 tickets, and you don't get these flight premium discounts at the same time.
But would you then say that the value of the programs have deteriorated over time? And what would you say is the biggest?
I would say that it's very unclear if they see premium customers as a valuable customer to them. The way I don't think they have a clear strategy on where they wanna create perks to their premium. To their premium customers.
Well, we have established that it's very important for the traveler recognition and of course the miles. And all of a sudden we are now hearing that things are deteriorating. We are not really looking at the main objective.
If you fly Emirates with the platinum card with Emirates, you can go into the first class lounge. But in Copenhagen, you have more like an invisible line between the gold lounge and the business class lounge. That there's no real difference. So Emirates is much better in creating these perks, and they do upgrades as well. SAS is not doing upgrades, but I understand why, because the cabin is full. So they live in a different environment where usually the premium cabins is full, even though the pricing is really high.
Do you think that will change now after COVID, where we hear that the business travel is struggling to get back? So you think they will change their strategy on that?
The way, if you look at the pricing now, it looks like we have tried to see from different routes how does the pricing looks like now and the next 6 months. To give you an example, I have a plan to go to US in August if the borders open, and there the premium pricing tickets is more or less the same as they were before. But it's clear to see on the economy tickets that the cheap ticket has disappeared. The same go if you want to fly to Dubai. The cheap tickets is not there any longer. You pay the expensive tickets for your trips. So it looks like the airlines have let at this stage at all let the cheap tickets go. And as a part of the aviation industry, I actually appreciate it. Because this drive towards the bottom is creating bankruptcies. And do we want SAS and all our loyalty to go bankrupt? We see what happens with Norwegian. There's so much mistrust afterwards. It takes years to re-establish your confidence to your customers if you go bankrupt. And the only way to do it differently is to set the prices at a margin where you're able to make money, because nobody wants their main suppliers to go bankrupt.
But I think that will be a huge discussion on price levels and so forth, because I'm a firm believer that prices will drop to 2019 level as soon as the capacity increases. Right now there's low capacity, so they charge whatever for who need to travel. Patrick, you had a question on that earlier.
Yeah, actually, there are more comments come up, but just on the pricing side, you're absolutely right. I think it is essential right now, because of the COVID crisis, I think it is essential that the airlines have taken, hopefully, a very conscious decision not to increase prices. Because everybody was screaming, oh, with COVID, and after that the prices are going to skyrocket. I don't believe they are. And they are taking steps not to do. What they do is they close out the lower booking classes. So it is in effect actually a price hike, but it's not seen as a price hike, and I think that's the first thing. The other comment I had, and to what Henrik was saying, and I not being a frequent traveller to your degree, I totally understand your point of view, and I totally understand the comparison. I think the comparison between SAS and Emirates is a bit unfair, but those are the airlines that you use, so I understand that you're doing that. But one of my thoughts, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, is that now if your company allowed you to fly first class in Emirates every time, you wouldn't have the perk of upgrading because you're already there. Mm. And I think that is probably where that's where the hook jumps out of the fish. That you're already flying business in SAS on long-haul flights. We're just talking long-haul here. You're already in the business class. So, of course, there is no upgrade perk. I know that SAS don't do it automatically and Emirates would do it. But had SAS done it automatically, you wouldn't have had the perk anyway.
No. But at the same time, if they could give me a free upgrade a year or 2 free upgrades a year, and then I could use these free upgrades, confirmed free upgrades, because usually when you book, even though you have the fly premium benefit that has disappeared, and where we have to start all over again, the guarantee that there's an available seat is not there. Usually there's 1 or 2 available seats on a flight. It's very unusual that there's 4 available seats on a flight. And this basically tells you that they know that there's a huge customer base, but they don't want to fill it up with kids. They don't want to fill the premium cabins up with kids, but they want to fill it up with couples.
But on that, and that was just my comment to the Emirates thing. One of the things that we were talking about.
But I agree with you that for sure, and for sure, the Emirates have this. They have the first class. If you fly first class, there's no benefits. But this is where this is where they really need to think out of the box. Mm-hmm. Because how do you create loyalty?
I think that's a really because we need to dig a little bit deeper down to that and saying that the issue about loyalty, how do you generate loyalty to those who has the top tier status or travels a lot? And I do agree that we see insights on how to do that. That when you are Diamond or when you are Pandium in SAS, or if you are a top tier member of one of the other airlines, then these upgrade tickets that you can use, or these vouchers, or anything that you can use, they need to do that. And what we see on SAS is that they're trying to make that benefit by decreasing the gold advantages, the gold benefits, right? So they protect Diamond and giving that gold lesser advantages. So from an airline point of view, I want to go a little bit back to the airline point of view on this. How do you see that loyalty can be generated for those who have the top tier memberships? Patrick again?
But I think one of the important things here is that if we just look back for a short while, very, very short while, loyalty programs started late 80s, mid 80s, something like that, to create loyalty. And then more airlines got, I think it was in the US it started. Then more airlines got loyalty programs. And eventually every airline in the whole world had, even airlines that just flew between Saskatchewan and Ouagadougou or whatever, they would have a loyalty program. Then airlines started adding things onto the loyalty program because those guys are doing it, then we have to do it. We're at a situation now where there's so many benefits added on the loyalty program that the only way that we can change the structure of the loyalty program is taking something away from someone else, And the first airlines to do that are going to get hit over the head. So to get back to your question, how do we create loyalty for the top tier? First and foremost, we have to decide who's the top tier. Today you see in airlines that there are so many gold members that it's not really a top tier anymore. It has become a new, slightly over medium tier. So we're talking the platinum or palladium or diamond or whatever the airlines are calling them. That is where you need to create the real perks, because those are the guys that are spending their lives on board our aircrafts. And I feel sorry for those guys because it's not that fun flying. I love flying.
I beg to differ.
No, I love flying. I love flying as well. But in South African, we had for a long time, we had a big agreement with South Aerospace because South Africa bought fighters. And we had this guy from Sweden who was obviously with South Aerospace. He was in Johannesburg once a week for 2.5 years. That's a lot of flying, And he had at the blink of an eye, he had an SAA Platinum card. But we couldn't give him any more perks because we didn't. Well, to begin with, we did have first class, but eventually we didn't have first class anymore. So the perks were sort of, he could take his family down, like you say. The perk as a top tier is to be able to travel with your family at a very good price in the premium class. Should we not, as airlines, maybe have a chat with our top tier customers and ask them, what is it you actually want? What is it that actually creates value for you? And if I was in this particular position in Scandinavian Airlines, I would love to sit and have a meeting with you, Henrik, and say, all right, okay, let's cut the crap, pardon my French. What would generate value for you? Because we can't upgrade you. You're already in our premium class. That would be the only way to find out how we can do it.
So, Henrik, what will generate value to you as a top tier?
Recognition when I come, and when I travel, and the value of seeing an extra perk. And what could be an extra? I know it's difficult. What could be an extra perk? Ironically, remember to invite me for the event because sometimes I don't receive the emails. But it could. I actually see this. One would be the tickets, the free upgrade tickets. Another could be the rollover points that you retain your status. Take an example on the lifetime gold. There's no specific recognition as a guy that travels really much. And more than the 50K a year, it doesn't get any benefits on the lifetime gold, because if you travel 9 years out of 10, generate 250,000 points a year, and 1 year you generate 49,000 points, you lose your lifetime gold membership. And that basically you, as I said before, you entertain the gold members, which is like your mid segment, and there's too many of them. And there's no lifetime diamond. Not yet.
Because there's not been 10 years yet.
Been 10 years yet. There's no lifetime diamond. And I just see one. I have a colleague. He's on the Lufthansa program. And he is being picked up in a limo when we fly together between the two aircraft. I just this is really
that's the on-membership, I guess.
That is the honored membership. Yeah. And this is really a membership that shows recognition of your memberships, right? If you fly Emirates, I know they can't do it physically in Copenhagen Airport, but just a perk that you can go to the lounge, you can board directly to the aircraft. There's another perk. It's just like it creates a different atmosphere that you don't need to queue in front of 450, 500 people on an aircraft.
Yeah. And that's where I think the future lies, that because Henrik, what you described here is basically the whole value chain. That from an airline perspective, look at the whole value chain for a traveler, from you leave your house in the morning till you arrive. Where can we add value as an airline, as part of the value chain? It could be identify the bottlenecks. If there are parking bottlenecks at Copenhagen Airport, part of the top tier membership could be your guaranteed priority parking. That whenever, wherever, we can, as an airline, as part of a partner program with Copenhagen Airport or any airport, we can guarantee you parking. It could be transfers where it's physically possible, logistically, etc., etc. But as you say, try and think out of the box, because looking at the pure airline product for many airlines, going away from the first class, yes, adding premium economy. But basically, there are very few components as an airline that you can play around with to add value to the product. And especially for premium customers that have already paid for those perks or for those advantages, where can we add value? That is filling in the holes between, and then putting value into the program itself as guaranteed 1-year upgrade, etc., etc.
But that is why I don't understand why, during this COVID crisis, why do they dilute the key driver, from my perspective, the premium customers, which is the fly premium product? Everybody has to start from scratch. There's nobody that is able to book business class tickets for economy until 6-12 months ahead.
And agree on the flight premium part. That's also something that I've asked SAS quite a lot about on this part, because even though they have the criteria now, it's really a lot of money you need to spend on the credit card in order to get those level on that part. So we are getting closer to the end. So we need to just wrap it a little bit around. And Patrick, you can comment on that. So we talked a little bit about the loyalty during the last year here, and the communication has been diminished, and airlines has kind of have a different approach on how they have communicated and reacted to their loyalty members during the last year and a half, or since March last year. So Patrick, what is your opinion on if you look a year back, how has the airlines in general been? Has they been good at communicating to the loyal customers? Or
the long or the short answer? The short answer, no.
Okay, so a little bit longer than the short answer.
They haven't been good at communicating, and I think there are probably a number of reasons for it. But one of them is that they've been caught with their trousers down. They've been caught in a state of panic. They don't know what to do. Because we've never experienced this. The last time we had a global pandemic, aircrafts didn't exist, so they don't know what to do. I know what I would have done had I had a senior position in an airline, and I agree with you that this is not the right time to dilute your loyalty programs. It's as simple as that.
You're nodding.
Yeah, I would say quite opposite. Yeah. It's now that you have, as an airline, the opportunity to really position yourself as being able to do that extraordinary thing rather than...
Sorry, I said dilute, which means cut down.
Yeah.
I don't think you should do that.
No.
Because what will happen is that loyal travelers like Henrik or any others, if your loyalty offering gets diluted too much now, you're actually giving the customer the benefit of starting from scratch when the COVID crisis is over, because it will be over and people will start traveling and we will get back to 2019 numbers, albeit in 2023 or whatever, we will get back. If you dilute now, you give your customers a carte blanche to go and look for something new. That is why during the COVID, you should have hung on to it. You should have actually probably done more to go out and say to your customers, you know what, you're taking the risk of traveling in these times. During COVID, we would like to give you an extra benefit.
But that's what you said.
Yeah,
but you said on the contrary to when I said you shouldn't dilute.
No, I think you're actually saying the same thing.
Yeah, we completely agree.
You're talking a little bit about that you actually should be more aggressive.
Yes.
And now is the time to get new customers.
Exactly, because if you see, as we see many airlines diluting the loyalty programs, you now have the opportunity to really step out and come with something extraordinary, because by diluting the value proposition, the offerings, you also reduce the shift cost, because that's, looking at loyalty programs, one of the major factors is what is the shift cost. how expensive is it for me to move from SAS to KLM, or apart from the logistics and everything else, but it can be too expensive to move to a new loyalty program. But by diluting the offerings in the program, you make it easier for the travelers to move because the shift costs are so low.
But let's take a look at it, because for me as a frequent traveler here on that part, I don't understand that part of that, because if I'm getting a status match, for example, with British Airways, it doesn't cost them anything to issue that membership. So it's basically free to try to attract me as a customer. So why haven't you seen that, Alan? Why haven't you seen any airlines doing these cross-alliance promotions, trying to get new customers in?
I think you should check your mail. I think the COVID, and I agree with everybody here, that the COVID is the right time now to look at your business model. And listening to what Henrik is saying is communication, but actually listen to what it is that makes him loyal. And rather than having a system where he has to fit, why don't you do a system that fits him? And I think now is the chance. It's very easy to get a status match on any airlines right now. And for the next 1 year, my estimation is that you will be swamped with offers about, or why don't you join us, and this and that. The thing we're coming back to again is what really matters. And status and recognition was one thing that I heard over and over and again. One thing that we've been missing out here is communication. And I think everybody has been doing an appalling bad job in communicating what is it, what can we do, and so forth. And yes, everybody was kept in a limbo situation. Everybody was looking at the financial thing. And unfortunately, knowing from my background, whenever finance and marketing meets, finance win. And this is going to cost you money in the short term. But the loyalty is so expensive to lose a very loyal client. And that is somebody should be looking at how do we maintain the loyalty of all our clients. I unfortunately disagree, and when you're diluting all of this, and look at what is it that is really needed. Make the COVID recovery period, which we are coming into where are we looking? Where is the revenue coming from? And the 80-20 rule is something that we most likely will be able to do it on the business traffic as well. It's loyal, it's frequent. The leisure traffic is coming whenever there is a holiday situation or whenever there are good offers and so forth. Right now, we need to get the corporate traffic up and running again, partly because we need the corporate market to revitalize. But to get people not to leave for somebody else. I mean, I called it this new girlfriend thing. It looks very interesting, but it might be expensive. But why don't we just look at how do we, as airlines or the airlines as such, maintain their clients, make sure that they are not jumping ship because there's a new offer in town. And going back to what we have been talking about here, it's quite obvious you are point chaser, which means that if the fare is right, the alliance is right, and you want to have these miles, you are going to go for the miles. Henrik, on the other hand, is also looking, he has to go, he knows he has to go, but he wants to be recognized that he is putting this amount of business. But who can tell how much business you're going to do next year? I mean, who could tell in 2019, oh, I want to sign this agreement, we're going to travel this much, and the whole world closes down. Now we are reopening. We have to be open-minded as to what is it that really attracts the business traveler back to the airlines, maintaining them. I think Henrik was very right in saying we need to look at all the steps. If all of a sudden we have to offer parking in order to say that it's very important that you're coming out here. It's ridiculous. All the parking lots are empty right now here, and you're still paying the same price as you did before. Everybody will look at this the same on an airline. If the flight to New York is only having 20 passengers in business class right now, what can you do to get the leisure traffic to travel in business class right now? To fill it up and then get more let's say, price hunters in this one. So I'm a firm believer we have to do something now. The industry has to look at this as a wake-up call, because we cannot do business the way we did. That's at least my
final remark on that part.
Yeah,
Patrick.
very, very fine. I think you hit the nail on the head, Alan, by saying that this is a numbers game. This is a meeting between sales and marketing and accounting. And when that happens, accounting always wins. And they don't appreciate these things that we have to go through to keep our clients. They only look at the bottom line. And that is not only airlines, I think.
it's
businesses. But, sorry.
So, as a final remark here,
Can I would like to add that as a frequent traveler, what is important is that from point A to point B, that the trip is smooth. And this is where you really see the differences if you travel. If I go on a KLM flight where I have no recognition and no status, which means that there's no lounge access, then I see the perks, right? But in general, the whole flow from point A to point B is extremely important the whole way through. Which means that if you fly Emirates, you're being picked up at home. You don't need to bother about parking. You don't need to bother about taxi, angry chauffeurs because your trip is too short and so on, because they pick you up, make sure you get home. They really nailed it there, where this point A to point B approach should be rethought through to make sure that you have the same status the whole way through. And I understand that if you look at the European operators, across the board for all European operators, there's no recognition in the seat you're sitting in. If you fly US, there's a huge difference if you fly first class or / business class in the US versus economy class. In Europe, there's no difference. It's the same seat. And I know it's extremely expensive, but if they could make this more comfortable, at least just block the middle seat.
Yeah, there's not much luxury in a SAS Plus.
There's no
to Rome sitting in SAS Plus.
If you want to sit 3-4 hours, and you are sitting totally packed, this is where you really. Lufthansa does it on if you fly business on Lufthansa, they block the middle seat, but SAS do not block the middle seat. If the flight is full, all seat is taken, and so you get like a cut-off experience. And
we see many, especially from the US, coming to Europe, for example, transiting Copenhagen and doing a Scandinavian flight from Copenhagen to Norway, and they're flying business class to Copenhagen, and then they're stuck in a middle seat with food and plates on that part. So there is a difference on the feeling of product as well. We're getting close to the end, so one last comment of each to this question. So just a very one-point thing on this part is what is next for loyalty? You have mentioned data, you have mentioned the end-to-end parts, we have heard about communication is interesting on that part. So Alan, on the next big thing for loyalty that happens in this the next 2 or 3 years, what do we see in your mind, or what should we see?
Personalization. I think the key would be personalization. Of course, the traveler needs to inform, but then that's the only way. Today, the technology is there. You can basically do it, and then we will have to take out all the bottlenecks of your travel. And I think Henry was quite right when he mentioned that when you're going to point A to B, it has to be smooth. You have to tell what you want, and the airlines have to deliver. And I think that this technology is there, and the one who implements it and does it right will be a sure winner, because that's what it's all about.
Henrik, your final words on next in loyalty?
Yeah, I completely agree with Alan, and adding content that both on the physical product, as Henrik also mentioned, from A to B, the whole value chain, putting in relevant content, but also within the program, where you have bought the physical content, where can you additionally add content to the program that gives value to you as a lifetime customer and not just a here and now customer.
Because you want to retain the customer, not getting new ones.
Yes.
Okay, Patrick, one final words on.
Well, it has to be very final because they said everything. I would, with what's left over, have to go with better integration within an alliance.
So you still believe the alliances have a place on Earth in the loyalty work as well?
There's my personal and my commercial thoughts about that, and I'll just stick to that. If they've already said, then that would be the last step.
Okay.
As the world looks today.
Yeah. One final word, Henrik, you as a frequent flyer.
I would say that what Alan says really echo my thoughts, because this would give me the added benefits. That if I could customize my perks, just like when you buy a TV subscription, you can choose services that fit you. It's no different. This is no different. So if you just need to define these products, then you would be in a good situation, because I echo what has been said. We are pushed back to zero. We have no guaranteed loyalty from the airlines. We basically need to start from scratch. I know we have a status, but what is the status worth in 12 months? We don't know.
And with those words, comment on that part and saying it's a new start. Personalization, communication, and so forth is the next big thing within loyalty. Then it's time to end this first panel. Thank you very much for joining in. It has been a huge and interesting talk, and I'm sure we could have continued for an hour more with no problem. So we'll do a follow-up on this subject when we know more about the restart. It will be interesting as well. So thank you very much and for your participations, and that's all for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That marks the end of this episode of our Monday morning update. We from the Travel Plus Loyalty podcast team wish you a very good day, and if you do travel, then we wish you a safe travel.